On behalf of our team, I want to welcome you to the Bonnick Institute's inaugural Spring Convening on Religious Pluralism and Conflict. We are so glad that you all could join us for what will be a rich and important 3 days discussing the current status of research on religious pluralism and envisioning its future. Now I have the privilege of introducing you all to Professor Ramesh, who's the Executive Vice President for Research at Rice University, and he's going to formally kick off the conference. Ramesh is an internationally recognized leader in materials science and physics with applications to energy. As Vice President for Research, Ramesh oversees Rice's internal and external research ventures. Prior to joining Rice, Ramesh held a number of leadership positions at the University of California at Berkeley, including the Pernundu Chatterjee Chair in Energy Technologies, Director of the Berkeley Nanoscience and Nanoengineering Institute, Founding Director of the U.S. Department of Energy Sunshot Initiative, Deputy Director of Science and Technology at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and Associate Laboratory Director at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. On the Sunshot Initiative, which I find especially interesting, having a little bit of a background in engineering in my former life, Ramesh worked under former Energy Secretary and Nobel laureate Stephen Chu to lead a $300 million a year initiative aimed at bringing the cost of solar electricity down to grid parity without the assistance of federal or state subsidies. The program has been lauded for bringing solar electricity into large-scale development and deployment around the world. Ramesh earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Madras University, a bachelor's degree in metallurgy from the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, and a master's and PhD in materials science and engineering from UC Berkeley. Ramesh served as an associate professor, and eventually distinguished university professor in materials science and engineering at the University of Maryland. Ramesh has more than 600 publications, over 98,000 citations, which I think we all can appreciate. And he has given more than 300 invited talks and has received many honors. So please join me in welcoming Vice President Ramesh.
I'm very certain in my previous birth, and of course we Hindus think a lot about multiple births and stuff like that, and I was born Jewish. I was very convinced about it. I resonate very strongly. But all of that is to say that as you look around, now you don't need me to tell you this, you guys know this already. One needs to have a lot of tolerance. It's not just religion, even in science, right? You see the world in a certain way. We don't know if that's the only way to see it. There are many ways to see it. And, the uncertainty principle in physics, the building block of our physical knowledge already says that. And it could be a particle, it could be a wave. It has both. So tolerance to all of those are important. Some of them are provocative, very provocative, which is even more reason for us to have tolerance towards. And religion is perhaps, you guys know, some religious conflicts have been ongoing for a long time. It feels like a Bollywood movie or something. And so, more seriously, we have a bunch of institutes at Rice. Some of them have been formulated under Reggie, who's an amazing fellow. He's the president of the university. We have a very strong focus on research, for sure, in this new administration. And we have reformulated a lot of our institutes with internal funds. 4 of the institutes are externally funded, and the Bonnick is one of them. And thank you to the family for endowing it. Thank you to the Templeton Trust for supporting us. So I've been pushing Elaine. Whenever I see her, I say, hey, we need to do something. And if you think about it, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. Universities need to play a stronger role. In olden days, universities were places where you could come together, have a conversation. You could have disagreements. And it's perhaps healthy to have disagreements, but you should have a conversation. But what this means, what religion means to you. And I've been pushing Elaine to say, hey, look, we need to have a more global conversation. I'm really happy to see people from various parts of the world coming here. Rice also has a fantastic facility in Paris, and I'm hoping Elaine will do a workshop in Paris. Paris is important. It's the center of Europe and stuff like that. And so it's a place where we can caucus the world, where people can come and say, let's forget about our differences, but see how we can coexist. I think, as you see today, this is even more important than ever before. But 60 years ago, I'm sure people are talking about the same thing, maybe in different tones and stuff. This business doesn't seem to ever go away. It seems like a wave in some sense. So my request, my urge, my plea to all of you is figure out ways by which different religions can coexist peacefully. Learn from each other. There's a lot to be learned from every religion around the world. They also have a lot of commonalities. Once you take away all the derivative functions, they have at core some common features, which would be the things to look for. So welcome once again to Rice, and I wish you a very good, intense maybe, yes, not a bad idea. As physicists like to go, we only play with wooden swords, we don't have steel swords and stuff. But we like this intellectual sparring. It is good for the soul, good for the mind to see how we can solve these problems. So with that, I will introduce you to Elaine Eklund, the director of the Bunyip Institute. It's a pleasure having worked with her for 2 years now. And I'll keep pushing her to do more things like this workshop where you can come together. Perhaps the next time we will have a few hundred people showing up to Rice. We will make this an annual event or something like that. Elaine?
It is my privilege to welcome you to the first, what we hope will be annual Banyak Institute for the Study and Advancement of Religious Tolerance's spring convening on religious pluralism and conflict. Although if the weather doesn't cooperate, you'll hear many weather jokes today. We may need to do it at a different time of the year, but we hope it will be in the spring. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elaine Howard Eklund. I'm the director of the Banyak Institute at Rice University. I'm also the Herbert S. Autry Chair in Social Sciences and a professor in the Department of Sociology at Rice University. Let me introduce you briefly to the Banyak Institute, which I've had the privilege of directing since 2022. The Institute is an interdisciplinary research and scholarly institute that aims to understand the conditions that lead to religious pluralism and robust tolerance, as well as the conditions that lead to intolerance, to discrimination, and then help people apply its findings in their lives and in their communities. We just went through a big strategic planning process, and we have developed through that 3 main planks that the Institute will be devoted to. We want to convene, to discover, and to disseminate. Our first plank is to convene scholars from across the disciplines to learn from one another and imagine how we might bring together the best knowledge and practices related to religious diversity and religious pluralism. We then discover through using the best research methods across disciplines to understand religious pluralism, tolerance, and conflict. And then we don't want to keep that information just for ourselves inside the academy. We want to take our research outside the academy and disseminate it to those who need it most, with the hope that their lives and communities might be changed. In the Institute's work of convening, that's where you come in and discovering via research, we're attentive to religious diversity, gathering those from different religious traditions in the same places and spaces. But we're also attentive to religious pluralism. We want more than just the existence of diversity. We want energetic engagement with religious difference, an active understanding while also retaining one's where relevant core commitments. Now let me turn to the related goals of this convening. This has been something of a dream of mine. For those of you who know me well, I love to gather people together. I really love hospitality and academic hospitality. So Hopefully you'll get good food, you'll get good drinks, you'll get good conversation, and you'll feel really welcome. Sometimes academic environments are not welcoming spaces, and we really want to stand against that here and make sure all of you feel welcome. We have folks from 8 different nations in the room, from several different disciplines, at different stages of the career track. And so I hope that you will challenge yourself to get to know people that you don't know. Very special things can happen in these kinds of environments. We brought together the top scholars. This was a very inductive process where students and staff went together to archives, to databases, and tried to find the folks who are doing the most engaged writing and scholarship on these issues, and to bring them together to really imagine together what a future research agenda for these important topics will be. One of the leaders in this area is the Templeton Religion Trust, as Ramesh mentioned, and in particular, their Covenantal Pluralism Initiative. We have some folks here who've been very involved with that I hope you'll get a chance to get to know. The concept of covenant requires both a framework of equal rights and responsibilities, as well as a supportive cultural context of respectful engagement, relationship, and reciprocity, even amidst stark differences in things like theologies, values, and lifestyles. Covenantal pluralism, therefore, entails the responsibility to engage, to respect, and protect one another without necessarily regarding others' beliefs or behaviors as equally true or right. So there is that kind of tension of recognizing the full humanity of the other and respect, and having a sense of humility in oneself, recognizing that we might learn from the other while retaining our own core commitments as well. This convening is funded by the Banyuk Institute, with additional funding for the Templeton Religion Trust. As I said, we're pleased to host several representatives from the foundation, and tomorrow you'll hear from Dr. Kimon Sargent, who is Senior Program Director, and he'll share some more about the foundation's particular goal related to covenantal religious pluralism. I also want to take the opportunity, I take the opportunity whenever I can, to thank the staff of the Banyuk Institute, without whom very little would get done. I want to thank Haley Hemstreet in particular, who is our Assistant Director of Operations, who has organized much of what you're experiencing, has been communicating with you tirelessly via email, along with Kate Eubanks, who is our Marketing and Communications person, who put together many things but made the lovely program that you see through her creative arts. And I also want to thank Ashwarya Lakshmi, Jessica McVeigh, Rachel Schneider, Kirby Goff, and our postdoctoral fellow, Josiah Taru. Also in our thanks is our excellent team of graduate and undergraduate scholars, many of whom will be presenting or moderating at the conference. I just have a fantastic team, and I'm very, very proud of them and very honored to work alongside them. We gather you all here because each of you has an interest in these critical topics, in particular religious pluralism and religious diversity. Let me offer some working definitions of the two, with the hope that you might reject or expand these definitions. We need to start somewhere, though. Religious diversity is a descriptive. It notes the presence of multiple religious perspectives, identities, or groups within a context. So it's a descriptive, just the presence. Religious pluralism, we might argue, and other scholars have argued, is an orientation or an approach to religious diversity that takes religious differences seriously, wants to honor these differences while not necessarily agreeing with them, and sees them as contributing to a healthy society or the common good. It will become apparent throughout our days together why we need to recognize these two concepts as distinct. And with that, we are going to get right going, and I will turn it over to our moderator for our first panel session, Dr. Rachel Schneider. Thank you so much.